Out of area agents, when you're choosing to rent or to sell with an out of area agent, mistake or good idea? Stay tuned. We'll tell you all about it.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Okay.
Hi, Smiley.
Yes, hi. So guess where I've just come from?
Mossman.
Yes, I had to know. So I've just come from Mossman. I was literally just doing an appraisal there. True story. So this is a big one, Mark, because people ask us all the time. Will you
All the
manage
time.
my property if it's out of area? Will you sell my property if it's out of area?
Well, I just got asked by a client for Gladesville. They said, I'm in
There you
my
go.
property in Gladesville. Hubby's got one in Narrabeen. She's got one in Gladesville. And she said, how's it going to go?
And what'd you say?
I said, if you're going to spend the money on realestate.com.au to $3,000, domain.com.au, I said, who are you going to put opposite the best buyer when they walk in the door? Are they going to be a gun? So if you feel that way about someone that you got in Gladesville, that's who you use. If you don't feel like that, here I am.
So that's so interesting because the appraisal that I just did in Mossman, the vendor said to me, I really need someone, because I said, what's important to you? I mean, obviously I'm not a Mossman agent. She actually met me because I was showing her a property that we had a little while ago in Seaforth. Lovely couple. Yep. And she said, I'm yet to find someone that's as vibrant as you. That's what she said. She's like, so I've called you in, and this is not a cheap property. This is a stunning home. Incredible. It's a masterpiece. So anyway, we're meeting up again tomorrow night, myself and her hubby, Michael and myself, and we're going to do the appraisal. But it is something that we get asked a lot. I have sold in Tamaray, Cremorne, Waverton, the eastern suburbs. Mark, I know you've sold in Rose Bay. Yeah. Bondi.
A lot. Bondi Beach, a lot. Well, I've even done cleanups after local agents when the agent hasn't actually done, reputable agents in those areas haven't sold that we've come along. Bang, bang, boom. One agent failed, Novak nailed.
So how does an agent who operates out of DY sell a property in Waverton or out of area? And actually, that's a really good case study. I want to talk about the Waverton one.
Yep.
So I was asked...
And hang on a sec, Lise. I think we're very pro for it. I'm very anti it as well, if it's not the right agent. Often I see an out-of-area agent selling a property in DY, and I think...
It's true.
Right? So I think to myself, that's going to be a bargain, and the marketing's rubbish, shit. Access is rubbish and shit, and the price ends up being rubbish and shit. So often it's not always one way.
Yeah, I agree, but it is all about, there you go, Daniel has said it right, it's the reputation that will precede you. So, I've got a lot of my clients know that I will just work ridiculous hours, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 5 a.m., whatever it takes to get the deal done. And, I am right across marketing, the actual product itself, the promoting of it, the negotiations. I mean, Mark, we're married, I do not stop. And so again, often that's why I'll get approached and people will say, I've got a property in Waverton. This semi that I sold in Waverton, I think a lot of the local agents were like, Novak, they're in DY. What are they doing here in Waverton? And I have to admit, when I went to do the appraisal, I had never, ever been to Waverton in my entire life. I had no idea where it was.
50 people bidding at the auction.
57 people bidding at auction. And the property sold for almost $1 million above reserve during the hardest lockdown Sydney has ever seen. So it made its way onto Channel 7 News. The strategy goes with the agent.
Made its way to Department of Fair Trading as well.
Well, yeah, and we won the case because
Yeah.
they were perplexed themselves. How does a semi in Waverton sell almost $1 million above reserve? And, you know, and my answer was, hang on a sec, isn't our job to get the most amount of money for the vendor? Like, we do hear properties being sold for enormous amounts above reserve. That was one of them. But here I found myself in an area where I didn't know where the local schools were. I didn't know where the local shops were. It was the first time I'd ever been to the area. And did it have any sort of a negative reflection on the end result? No, it didn't. The strategy came with me.
The people that are watching, I'd love to know everyone's opinion on this, out of area agents for rentals or sale. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. So, Lise,
yep.
What if, with that particular one in Waverton, do you think the out of area thing helped? Do you think it hindered? Do you think it just should not be discussed?
Makes no difference.
What
Honestly,
about someone asks about schools, or someone asks about transport, or something? How do you answer that? Google.
So just like this, here's a little fun fact, guys. I grew up in the eastern suburbs. I have been working. Oh no, that's not true. I definitely not true. You need to take that back, Mark. You know that's not true.
Yeah, I can't take it back. I'll take it back.
So grew up in the eastern suburbs, and here I find myself listing and selling property on the northern beaches because I married a man, Mark, who was born and bred Northern Beaches, and that's where we started our agency 20 years ago.
Yes.
Now, for many respects, I could be deemed as an out-of-area person. I didn't grow up there. I do have to put on my Google Maps at times to get to appraisals, but that has not stopped.
Your competitors have reminded you many a times that you are.
They have.
Yeah.
They have. But that hasn't stopped me being the number one agent on the Northern Beaches. Fact, on realestate.com, you've just got to go there. The numbers speak for themselves. So, you know, yeah, sure, I have to research, but that's what a great agent should do. But does knowing where the local schools are, does knowing where the local shops are, is that going to have, if the agent doesn't know that stuff, it's a question, is that going to have a negative impact on the end result? Tunk Street, Waverton, as I said, I'd never even been to the suburb in my life, and took out a record price for a semi in the area. This is going back about a year ago.
Lise, I'm doing some business at the moment for commercial in Mossman and Neutral Bay, and a lot of the people that I'm speaking to are actually really finding it refreshing to have a different operator offering their services in the area. I'm talking landlords, I'm talking prospective tenants. They're going, I'm not going to say why, because it's going to sound like I'm starting to trash bag other agents, but they just are. So I think sometimes people actually find it refreshing to have a selection or more to their selection than what they're traditionally being offered. So
I agree. And so, you know, I think the question that those local agents need to ask themselves is, if the out of area agent did come in and did do a great job at selling a property in an area where they don't necessarily transact properties, and they did take out a phenomenal result for that property, or even a record for the suburb, they probably need to ask, well, what are they doing that is the extra 1%? And why did the out of area agent get called in the first place? The strategy that I use, it stays with me. It doesn't change. It's not suburb centric. It doesn't change because I've moved from DY to Mossman to Waverton to Vaucluse. It doesn't change. The strategy stays with me, with the agent. And I am absolutely 120% confident in saying that if I'm an out of area agent selling in any area across Sydney, I will, without a doubt, do everything I can to make sure that I am getting the highest possible price for my vendor, and I will do things differently.
Look, if you're a top 1% agent in your area, you are going to do better. You throw that agent in water anywhere and they will bloody swim. They will do a phenomenal job. That's the fact. So if you've got a good operator, a trusted operator, practitioner that's very good at what they're going to do, they're going to smash it. So if you've got that top 1% agent willing to work from you, and it's not their core suburb, you're onto a bloody good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the same thing goes for rentals. You know, Mark, we manage a huge number of properties, over 1,600 properties under our roof in DY. And I can tell you now, guys, a lot of those properties are not Northern Beaches based. You know, You've got properties from Surrey Hills to the eastern suburbs to out west, you know, and sure, the property manager's got a trek. And sure, we have trades that do need to cross the bridge to go to look after those properties, but it is absolutely possible. Absolutely. But there is no reason why, as agents, we cannot list and sell properties out of area. Now, different agencies operate differently. You will find that there are certain agencies where that agent has got their own farming area, what we call a farming area. So it's your own patch. So as that agent, you can only list and sell in that particular area. And that's usually to do with the actual agency and what their rules are within that agency. It's certainly not it's certainly not a licensing thing, or it's not a rule or regulation as part of the industry.
How far will you travel?
So actually, good question, because I was asked last week if I would sell something in Terrigal. So for those of you guys that are watching, a beautiful property, Terrigal is just past Gosford. So for me to get to Terrigal to do open homes 2-3 times a week, it's not dollar productive. I don't want to take away from other properties that I've got on the market. So, it does need to be dollar productive. I do need to be sensible about it. I will refer that property off to a great agent. I do often reach out to other great agents in my network.
We've got a great network. We've got a phenomenal network.
We do.
Of great agents across the country.
Yeah, we really do. But how far would I go? I mean, I probably wouldn't stretch much further. If I've got to be in my car for more than, let's say, 45 minutes to get to the open home, it's probably just not worth my while. And as I said, I'm quite protective of all of my other listings and vendors as well. And right. I don't want that to affect, the other properties that I've got on the market. I'm very mindful of that.
Yep.
Very mindful of it. What about you, Mark?
I'll go 24 hours in a plane. There's nothing I won't do for a listing. No, just joking. I reckon about the same.
Wait, what?
40. I reckon about 30 to 45. And also, I want to make sure I trust the client.
Yeah.
It's sometimes when putting a property to the market, it's an exercise where the client's not that confident with the marketplace. I can't afford to hit and miss. So I need to have that trust with the client that we're going to get a result and we're going to get in, we're going to get out, we're going to do a fantastic job for them. And they know they can't get that job done anywhere else, so they trust us with the business.
I agree. But someone asked me the other day, I got called in to do an appraisal in Clontarf. That's a suburb on the Northern Beaches that I've never sold in. I did a really lovely, lovely home. And the vendor said to me, "But Lisa, you have never sold a property here." And I said, you're absolutely right. I have never sold a property here. But, you know, I had never sold a house in Manly, Mark, but managed to take out the top auction result across the country last year. You know, $21.5 million. And it actually, that created Northern Beaches history. It was the highest price ever paid per square metre for a house. And I had never sold a house in Manly. I'd sold apartments, but I'd never sold a house there. That is not really, you know, the area that I didn't then. I certainly do now. I got a lot of listings down there. But again, the strategy, it comes with the agent. A great agent's going to do their research. These days, you know, you only need to go onto RP data anyway to say, great, we've got that school down the road there. Did you know that the Beeline bus is just here? That will have you in the CBD, you know, in 20 minutes, la, la, la. So it's up to a great agent to do their research. But the strategy and the energy and the passion that comes with that agent, that's what you want to be looking for.
So if people are asking the question, can an out of area agent sell and rent their property? The answer is yes, providing there's two answers. One, they're going to have to be pretty close, as in half an hour, 45 minutes out max.
Yeah.
Say an hour max. Two, they've got to have a phenomenal offering. They've got to be very, very, very good at what they do. Not just trusted, but just very, very good at what they do to extract the best price out of every buyer that comes through. So just make sure they're not cutting corners to get you sold.
Absolutely. And look, often, you know, I am being called into areas like, I mean, Camaray is an area, Mark. I had sold about 4 or 5 properties there at one stage. I got a record price. I had no idea. Again, I had to put Google Maps on. I'd never even knew that this street existed. I pulled up to a beautiful property and ended up getting a record price for those vendors. Do you remember that 280 metres squared house in Camaray? $3.91 million for this property. Strategy. And then right off the back of that, I got another listing there. Then I got another listing there. Those local agents would have just been going, I didn't know that you guys had an office here. You know, again, it's all about the strategy. So the short of it is, absolutely, you can sell out of area. Whether an agent wants to or not is a different story. I love it because I love the challenge. I love the disruption that it causes. But I love the fact that I can, you know, do something for my vendors that maybe those local agents couldn't do or couldn't offer. So I love that. Love it. But I do love that. I love the challenge.
And with the rentals, often people have family offices. So they have more than 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 properties, and they want to consolidate them. So as long as our team's within an hour, they'll use our services. And with rentals, sometimes with rentals, we will use external agents to lease the property.
Yeah, so that's a good point. That's a good point.
So yes, we'll manage it. Yes, on a week by week, month by month, year by year basis. But to locate the tenant initially, we'll use an agent smack bang from that area that we know, that we trust. So we've got unit blocks in Fairfield and Cabramatta and those sort of places where we will rely on those agents to get it let, and then we'll look after that back end management. And that client, so this particular client we've got's got 50 properties with us. They know that unit block of 12 and that unit block of 16, they've just got one central property manager. It's almost like their own family office within their family. That person is looking after them for everyone.
Agreed. Mark, the other thing is, you know, if you want a particular agent to assist with the sale of your property, but they are out of area, sometimes a vendor will say, will you do a conjunction? A conjunction is where you've got 2 agents or multiple agents selling the property at the same time. So you've got, as an example, Lisa Novak, because you trust her and you've got the relationship with her. But then you also do a conjunction with a local agent who is operating in that area and may have that database. Now, I got asked... Yeah, I actually got asked last week if I would do a conjunction, and I said no, I wouldn't. I yeah, I don't like to do conjunctions, because what I find is that one agent usually does the vast majority of the work, and the other agent doesn't do a whole lot, or they're just not running at my pace. Or they're not doing the stuff on social media and the way I like the marketing, or whatever it might be. But if I'm going to be the exclusive agent on the job, I want all the exclusivity and I want to do it my way, because I know that that strategy works. I definitely don't love a conjunction. I'll be honest with you. What do you think about it?
I did one with you and I, sort of, more me, with Deline Lewis in Rose Bay. Worked well.
That worked really well.
We know her, we trust her. That was probably a little bit different because she's a personal friend of yours.
Yeah, really good friend.
And then the people.
But that worked well. Yeah.
Were going super well. But you know, for the guys that were selling, they just had that enormous trust built with us. They said agent selection over to you, running that process over to you, do what you think, and we did that. It was a great result.
Great result, phenomenal result for the vendors. So
Yeah.
look, and you know, not to say never say never. I mean, you know, it really is on a case by case. Certainly if it was something like that and I was asked to do a conjunction with, you know, someone like Deline, who obviously is a very prominent figure in our industry and in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, and that's particularly what the vendor wanted. If I felt it was in the best interest of my vendor, absolutely I would agree to it. But I'll be honest, the vast majority of the time that's not the case. I had a bad experience once with a conjunction and I did all the work. The other agent clipped just the commission and I was like, I don't like this. This is not the way I want to run a campaign. And often I find that sometimes just these agents are just a little bit too slow for me as well.
Do you pay
but
more
it's
for an
case
out
by
of
case. It's case by case.
Do you pay more for an out of area agent?
Oh, I wouldn't think so. I don't know what other agents choose in that area. I'll always offer up my vendors at what's called a flexi fee anyway. Certainly for houses I will. So actually that's a good conversation for another day, I think, Mark, talking about the varying commissions. But the flexi fee usually just covers all of that. So I'll give a good broad range and I'll allow a vendor to choose what they would like to pay me once the property has been successfully sold. I just ask them to base it on service and results.
I reckon that's a show.
That's a show. That's it. No comments, no questions.
Yeah, we had a couple of comments and questions in there, whacked them all in. They've come and gone.
But it is a good topic, and it is something I reckon I get asked at least a half a dozen times a week. Lisa, will you sell my property? Will you deal out of area? And also about 6 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, I give an enormous amount of referral business, Mark. You know, there's a great network of real estate agents out there. There's just certain, as I said, certain properties, it's just not dollar productive, or, you know, it's just too far for me to travel. Terrigal's a prime example of that. That's a good 2 hours each way, just for me to get there to do an open home. It's not fair to the other, you know, the other vendors. It's not fair to anyone. I'm not doing anyone any justice. So, but yes, I will absolutely consider it. I've done it hundreds of times. I love it. I love the challenge. I love bringing something new to the area. And so far, you know, 100% of the time, it's been a phenomenal result for the vendor.
Out of area agents. There you go.
Out of area agents. That's a show.
We covered the story.
We did. See you guys. Have a great week, everyone.
Now I'll outro on the correct. I'll outro on the correct video clip. I did the Morning Minutes one before.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Whoops. See you, everyone. Love ya. Bye.
Bye.